Honestly, impact for one more game this season. Iowa State wins the tip, and off we go. 2 games remaining in the regular season. Next week, the conference tournament in Kansas City. Same starting 5 the last 5 games for Iowa State. Fouled 4. Condit put it up. Aliash Kuntz gets his 6th straight start as TJ Otzelberger has been looking for more efficiency offensively, spacing on offense, and he's gotten it.
He's a really skilled guy, and he's got a quick release. You see it right there, pick and pop. And the way Iowa State, Ted, runs their offense, so running through their bigs, the high post and elbow area. George Condit has 59 assists on the year as a big. And Jazz has a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, so those guys facilitate well with Iowa State's offense.
Oklahoma State reinserts the 7-footer Musa Cisse into the starting lineup, who has been on a tear. Came off the bench Saturday. Tyrese Hunter with the steal. Had his shot rejected.
Iowa State really extending defensively here the first couple possessions.
And Tyreek Smith ends up with the slam for Oklahoma State. Mike Boynton says he has gone into GM mode here late in the season, experimenting with different lineups, and he likes having Smith, a big, next to Cisse, the 7-footer. Has him excited about what the future could hold with those two. Brockington is fouled.
Foul by Oklahoma State number 33, Musa Cisse. His first.
Now this is the end of the road for Oklahoma State this week, and Mike Boynton, who's in his 5th year as the head coach, of course, ineligible for the postseason. Meanwhile, Brockington, Brendan, it's as if he is on another level now. As good as he was the first few months of the season, over the last couple of weeks, he's been unstoppable.
Yeah, no, he's been outstanding all season long. And that's the thing of it. And TJ Otzelberger told us, he said he is playing out of his mind, which is saying a lot with how consistent he has been. You know, it's all centered around that mid-range game that I mentioned. But he hits threes enough to keep you honest. So you can't just protect that mid-range area. You have to extend out on him, which allows him an even better chance to get downhill.
Now, Brockington doesn't take a ton of threes, but 42% this year. 3 free throws here after the foul on Cisse. And Brockington goes 1 for 3. Oklahoma State coming off back-to-back overtime losses. Brockington with the block on Likely at the other end. Casual feed. Brockington rises up for the flush.
Great defensive effort in that last possession. Brockington takes what seemingly was a lay-in by Likely. Really knights it. Fast break defense turning into some offense.
A 3-2 Iowa State lead. Cisse being pounded, and Oklahoma State turns it over. Brockington at the center of it again.
Well, Iowa State got off to the great start this season with tremendous defense and toughness. The block, and then on the ensuing possession right there, a little broken floor, nice ball movement from Iowa State. And the Cyclones playing with a lot of emotion and energy. They always do in this building, Ted, but when it's senior night, there's an extra step to that.
Cowsher lost the handle. It's a turnover. Avery Anderson rips it away for Oklahoma State, which has gone to overtime in each of its last 3 games, losing the last 2 to Baylor and Oklahoma. They've lost 8 of 11 since back-to-back wins over then #1 Baylor and TCU in mid-January. 10 to shoot. Bryce Thompson off target. Loose ball. And out to Iowa State. Now, Mike Boynton, Brendan, says that it wasn't easy for this team to continue to give effort through February and now in March, the last week of the regular season. Nothing to play for in terms of team goals. No conference tournament, certainly no NCAA tournament like last year.
Yeah, really difficult because, as you know, after every ball game, Ted, players coaching staff, fans, you're evaluating or reevaluating where you were, right? I mean, we're doing that. Joey Brackett's updating multiple times a game, and that's what's really fun, especially when you have a team that has a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. But it's hard when you're not involved in that. I know Mike Morton has done a pretty good job of keeping these guys playing hard and focused for the most part. You see Musa Cisse, how good he's been, and on cue right there, Ted. Cisse's improved play here the last couple of weeks.
Back-to-back double-doubles for Cisse, 3 in the last 5 games. So a couple of dunks for Oklahoma State. One from Smith, one from Cisse, now foul. This goes against Bryce Thompson, his first.
When Cisse came to Oklahoma State, he's a gazelle. Rim runner, defensive end of the floor is where he plays at a high level, but offensively he's improved. He's starting to develop a little bit of interior game, but he's active. He's learned that when you set the screen or you slip it, you've got to roll and roll hard, and Oklahoma State's been getting more of those type of buckets from him.
Isaiah Brockington with the jumper. He's got all 5 for the Cyclones. And the runner drops in for Avery Anderson III, Oklahoma State's leading scorer. He has finished this season strong, averaging 17 points over the last 6.
And he's the one guy in Oklahoma State's roster that can go get about any look at any time. His explosiveness with the ball in his hands allows him to do that.
Ice Likely with the spin and the score. Likely was aggressive in the first meeting between these teams 5 weeks ago tonight in Stillwater. It was a classic that Iowa State won in overtime, 84-81.
Well, he's best in transition. Big body, 6'4", strong.
Nice feed inside. Robert Jones to Tyrese Hunter for the deuce.
I just really love, Ted, how Iowa State spaces. And again, you basically have 5 out, none in, which allows that area on those back cuts that most Cyclone players are terrific at doing. And there's Jones right there facilitating, another big facilitating from the high post area for the Cyclones.
7 to shoot. Cisse in trouble. Jumper on the way from Smith. No. Likely the follow. And the rebound for Gabe Kalsher. Iowa State on its first 4-game winning streak in the Big 12 since 2017. Hunter trying to turn the corner. This time, setting up Jones for 2.
Now, Iowa State will pick the Cowboys apart. I mean, you have to be really disciplined on your hedge right there with the spacing. And that weak side guard or perimeter defender has got to look when that big rolls or slides towards the rim.
Anderson, the turnaround, and a swish. For the junior from Justin, Texas, Mike Boynton says he has figured out his identity in terms of scoring and making the right decisions. Kalsher is trying to feed the post. Instead, it is stolen. Oh, rejected.
It is unique because you might be done, you might not. And Coach Otzelberger, as you asked him, Ted, about this, he said, you know, we're not going to really talk about that now. We got a lot on the plate. Everybody's dialed in, and we'll get to that soon enough.
Offensive foul against Iowa State. Yeah, Otzelberger says those discussions will happen right after the season, like literally a day or two whenever the season gets done after they finish in the NCAA tournament. They're pretty much a lock for the dance at this point, but they will know soon after, just not right now.
Yeah, and Iowa State Cyclone, you're hoping that's quite a while, right? At least the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
They're a team built for it. Battle hardened in the Big 12. 9 quad 1 victories, tied for the second most in the country. Layup goes for Oklahoma State, and Anderson now has 6.
And I think it's important when Anderson has played well and he's had space, he's committed to getting downhill first, getting inside that arc, getting all the way to the rim, or at least putting himself on the line, and then he works himself out on the perimeter. That's when he's played his best.
Foul called on Kuntz, trying to grab the rebound. Well, I mentioned it, quad one victories, Brendan. This is not the most in the Big 12. This is the top 3 teams in the country. They all happen to be from the Big 12 in terms of quad one victories.
And all 3 of these teams have excellent non-conferences, but you get in this league, I mean, there's more opportunity for quad one games than any other league in the country. That's a double-edged sword. But obviously those 3 teams have taken advantage of it. You know, Iowa State has 9. So 2 weeks ago, Ted, when Iowa State sat 3-9 in the league and had lost 4 straight, you know, a lot of people I'm sure asking you as well, why is Iowa State still comfortably in? Well, it's because it's an entire body of work, right? And it's like golf. I can be pretty good for 5 or 6 holes, but it's 18 holes. I'm going to blow up at some point, right? But Iowa State has not, and obviously, as we mentioned, 4 wins straight. I think people understand that's right. This is an excellent ball game.
I haven't seen you on the golf course yet. We need to make that happen in the offseason.
I'll drive down to Dallas and come hang out with you.
I'll head up to Oklahoma City, Kalsher the air ball, and out of bounds to Oklahoma State. You know, I asked TJ Otzelberger, do you allow yourself to soak this in, what this team has accomplished so far? Again, remember, winless in the Big 12 last year, 2-22. He said, it's not a strength of mine to enjoy things in the moment. I feel like I'm an actor. I have to keep my focus, stay in my role. Brockington with the block. Oklahoma State regains it.
I think we're trying to figure out what type of player he wanted to be. And eventually he's settled in just to being what he does best. I mean, if you're being honest, I mean, he's a 6'2" 2-guard at the collegiate level. That's great in space. He got downhill first that game, and I mentioned it earlier in this half. You know, and he almost willed Oklahoma State offensively to win in Norman on Saturday. And if you look at his decision-making so far here tonight, he's 3 or 4 from the floor, and all of them, for the most part, have been moving towards the rim.
Three-pointer goes down for Keelan Boone, seeing his first action since Valentine's Day at Kansas. Didn't play the last 3. Mike Boynton says it was a coach's decision. Keelan Boone needed to get refocused on the right things, and he's back on the floor tonight.
Yeah, he was in the doghouse a little bit, and we asked him if, Coach Boynton that is, if he would play tonight, and he indicated that he probably would. And you got to watch him for Iowa State, because he is a streaky three-point shooter. When Boone gets his feet set, as you saw in that last possession, he's probably Oklahoma State's best three-point shooter. See right there, that's in rhythm within the flow of the offense. It's a nice pass flat along the baseline. It's when he gets rushed where he can struggle at times.
Keelan's twin brother Caleb Boone picked up the foul on the perimeter, mugging Brockington. So the shot clock resets to 20. Brockington the pull-up. Oh, soft touch. It was knocked around by Jaden Walker in the cylinder. No basket.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're going to see it right here. Kind of hits softly and then goes in. And before it goes through the net, there's Walker tapping that.
Goes down as the 6th turnover for Iowa State. Oklahoma State also has 6 turnovers. We're not even midway through the first half.
Yeah, we always ask coaches, you know, what concerns you, what's important. And the very first thing TJ Otzelberger mentioned was turnovers, especially against Oklahoma State. If they're live ball and they can use their athleticism and go to the other end.
Bryce Williams puts it in. The super senior from Tampa, coming off the bench the last 8 games since returning from an ankle injury.
Yeah, coming off probably his poorest performance in conference play. Well, not probably, it was. 0 points, 0 rebounds, and 3 turnovers in 19 minutes in Norman on Saturday. So I'm sure Mike Boynton likes that start from him.
Kuntz missed the 3, got his own miss. Brockington dropping it off. Condon lays it in. Nice setup by Brockington.
Ted, that's the thing about Brockington. He's not a volume shooter. He's a good decision maker. He drew all that attention right there and just dropped that dime. That's a great play by Brockington, setting up Condon.
Bryce Williams from the outside this time. And Brockington snares the rebound. The second leading rebounder in the Big 12 at 7.5 per game. Defender fell down. Brockington off the mark. Kuntz, another offensive rebound. And the soft touch for Chaz Kuntz, the native of Slovenia.
And one of the things with the way Iowa State plays offensively, it's going to bring Cisse away from the basket, not just from blocking shots, but from getting rebounds, and you saw in that last possession. You take him out of there, and Oklahoma State a lot of times will have 4 guards around him in the lineup.
Hunter stepped on the baseline. Out of bounds to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Ted, we'll go back a couple possessions here. You see Brockington, Walker doesn't close out. Brockington takes advantage right there. And obviously when he has the ball and you're not guarding, you have to be careful ball watching and watching him go to work, because Iowa State as a team about as good a cutters or guys playing away from the ball as there is in the Big 12.
Beat it to Cisse. He's double, gives it up. Missed the layup, but the tip-in is good for Oklahoma State.
Well, that's progression from Cisse. I mean, Iowa State's going to double you in the post and double hard, and Cisse able to manage that and find Thompson cutting down the lane.
Matthew Alexander Moncrief gets credit for the tip-in. Brockington, the air ball. And a foul is
back to being a playmaker. I mean, you see how great he's been over the last almost 10 games. I think it's really what it's always been, Ted, with him. It's decision-making, specifically in 2 different areas. One, shots, marginal shots to bad shots. He's eliminated those. He's getting downhill first. We talked about that. The other thing is ball security. I mean, he's a combo guard, 2-guard, Ted, that's in his junior year, and he has not had one season yet where he's had more assists and turnovers. So he could be a better playmaker, when he garners that type of attention and draws help. And he's also got to take care of it because he's really careless with it at times. If he does that, I'm telling you, he's going to go up a tremendous level as a player in college.
Swing it around. Jaden Walker lost it. Walker has carved out a spot in the rotation over the last few weeks for Iowa State. Made that big defensive play against Nigel Pack Saturday. Now Kalsher with the reach-in.
Yeah, Ted, I thought the first couple of possessions offensively for Iowa State, I thought they looked sharp. If you remember, great spacing, running their offense through the high post, good cuts, they got easy looks. They have not been as patient, and they've been careless with it. That's 8 turnovers for Iowa State so far.
Kuntz on the switch against Thompson. The step back late in the shot clock. Too strong. Offensive rebound. Cisse, loose ball, scooped up. Anderson the lob. Keelan Boone blocked. And it's secured by Caleb Brill. Iowa State hasn't scored in almost 3 minutes. Hunter trying to change it. He does with a triple. All due respect to players like Kendall Brown, Jeremy Sohan at Baylor, Tyrese Hunter should be the Big 12 Freshman of the Year.
I agree. It is different. when you're the point guard and you're the floor manager. And one of the great things about him, in addition to his ability, he has a skill set, obviously, but he's confident and he doesn't let adversity or negative plays affect him. I mean, he's that tough mentally, and that's impressive when you're that young.
Thompson got to put it up from the logo. Air ball. Oklahoma State won for their last 8 from the floor.
Well, against Iowa State, this is a good defensive ball club. You have to move it side to side. You have to move it side to side and then read the closeouts of the Cyclones. Oklahoma State, last couple possessions, ball is sticking.
Condit the hook, off the mark. And foul called as Jaden Walker reaches in on Moncrief. Hey, tickets are still on sale for the 2022 Phillips 66 Big 12 Men's Basketball Championship. You can get those tickets at T-MobileCenter.com. First round tips off 1 week from tonight at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Of course, Oklahoma State will not be a part of it. Banned from the postseason. But even with just 9 of the 10 teams, next week is going to be so much fun.
Well, it's always a great tournament because the parity in this league every year is really good. But I think especially this year, Ted, I mean, the quarterfinal matchups, you can't pick a sure winner.
Yeah, there are a lot of pick'ems on Thursday. 3 ball from Grill. Taken away, Brockington the floater. And here comes Likely in transition. Oh, too tall for Cisse.
Nice job of Cisse, just using his length and athleticism to keep that ball alive.
That could have been another turnover for the Cowboys. Brockington defending the strip. And his freshman year at St. Bonaventure, 3 years at Penn State, was the second leading scorer on an 11-win team last year and is now the 3rd leading scorer in the Big 12 on an NCAA tournament team. What a transformation he has helped lead in Ames. And he comes up with a steal. Oh, he almost did. Could not hang on near the sideline. Timeout. Iowa State trailing the Pokes by 4. Iowa State down by 4 at home against Oklahoma State on the Cyclones senior night. Their 4th consecutive win came Saturday against Kansas State. Iowa State had to hang on, almost coughed up a 15-point lead in the second half. But Tyrese Hunter had his first career double-double. Isaiah Brockington continued his sizzling stretch. As you look ahead to postseason play, 20 wins on the year. Joe Lunardi has them projected as a 7 seed. You like the pieces around Isaiah Brockington?
Yeah, the thing with Iowa State, they defended all year. It's been Brockington and Hunter, and they've needed some consistent scoring, maybe a 3rd guy. Doesn't matter who it is. But they're starting to put it together offensively, obviously centered around Brockington. Kuntz started in the starting lineup 5 games ago. He helped stretch the floor, and also he's a facilitator. Hunter is getting to be, Ted, a better game manager. He has 26 assists over the last 3 games, and he's also taking care of it at the same time. And so you're starting to kind of piece that together. Oh, shoot, Caleb Grill, he had 18 points at K-State, made 6 threes. So there's that too. And they all do different things. They're not the same guy. And I think that has added to their efficient offense here, especially the last 3 games.
Anderson missed the 3 at the end of the shot clock. And here is Tyrese Hunter. Being guarded by Anderson. Brockington. Defended by Likely. Fun matchup. Giving it up, 4 to shoot. Hunter from the logo. And a foul on Oklahoma State going over the back of Robert Jones.
Both these teams selling for jumpers right there, but there's Jones. That's what he gives. So to extend it further, Ted, we talked about some of those scores. TJ Otzelberger's done a great job of defining roles. You know, a guy like Jones comes in. You know, he does effort-based things. I mean, there were 3 Oklahoma State guys there. He gets inside of them and allows Iowa State another offensive possession.
Coates the pull-up, tried to bank it, didn't drop. And it's Oklahoma State ball with under 3 to play in the first half. Iowa State shooting just 30% as a team and 1 of 9 from 3.
Oklahoma State, like the majority of the Big 12, Ted, has been really good defensively this year. And it's a little bit different than Iowa State. They have so much length and athleticism. That's how they disrupt you. And they close gaps quickly at times when you think you have a good look.
Turnover number 9 for Oklahoma State as Keelan Boone throws it away.
Yeah, if the ball doesn't move against Iowa State or any good defensive team for that matter, I mean, this is what's going to happen. You dribble, you pick it up, see Hunter, he extends out and causes that turnover right there.
Iowa State 0 for their last 5 from the floor. Grill from deep. Oh, in and out. But last touched by Oklahoma State.
You know, Ted, it's interesting with Grill. I mean, he's obviously an outstanding shooter, but he has shot it a lot better on the road than he has at home. So he's made 25 threes in conference play. 20 of those have come away from home. Kind of unique. Typically, you're more comfortable in your own house. But that may bode well because, although I'm sure Iowa State would like to host the NCAA tournament in postseason play, that it's typically away from home. So Caleb Grill may be ready to knock down some Jays in postseason.
Yeah, they're not going to the NIT. They're not playing at home. Lob it. Cisse.
The ball has to move against good defenses, and you still might not get a great look. But the only way to potentially get space or a matchup opportunity or have the ability to force help is the ball cannot stick.
Here's Hunter. Heading downhill over Cisse. Doesn't fall. Thompson hangs, rejected from behind by Condon. Still Oklahoma State ball, and Thompson remains down.
This is another play right there. Thompson able to take Condon off the drive, but you see the weak side rotation over, and it caused Thompson to kind of have to veer off to the right, allowing Condon to recover and get the block shot.
Adding injury to insult for Bryce Thompson. Hope he's all right. He's 0 of 6 from the floor tonight and has not scored. And he has shown a lot of promise over the course of conference play, Brendan.
Yeah, double figures in 4 of his last 5. You know, Oklahoma State, along with Anderson and Cisse's emergence, they've had stretches where honestly it's been a little bit better offensively. They still have a lot of inconsistencies within the game and halves, but Thompson, a mid-range guy, and Iowa State's really kept him out of it.
Moncrief in a crowd and taken away by Grill. Final minute of the first half. Iowa State has missed 8 in a row, shooting just 27% for the game.
And they should be able to get a little 2-for-1 exchange here as you close out the half.
Mid-range Kuntz. That's off the rim. An 8-second difference between the clocks. Cisse trying to come up with the offensive board. Grill has it. Shot clock turned off for Iowa State. Brockington regained control and swishes it.
In college basketball now, well, in all basketball for that matter, it's either put your head down and drive to the rim, or it's a three-point shot. And Isaiah Brockington is so fun to watch because of his style. One of the most fun players that I've covered in all my years in the Big 12.
Rondell Walker through the back door for two. Good possession to start the second half for Oklahoma State. As we check out some of the numbers from the first half, Iowa State with just 20 points, their fewest in the first half this season, shooting just 29%. That'll help boost the number. The dunk by Tyrese Hunter, who now has 7. Brockington, of course, leads the way with 9. And a foul called on Jazz Kuntz.
There's that back screen right there. And I think it was Smith's man. If your man sets a back screen, first and foremost, you have to communicate that, and then you have to stay at home and make sure your teammate comes over the top. You got to protect the basket first.
Cisse the scoop. Oh, the skill by the 7-footer. He has really evolved offensively over the last month.
It's a pretty good adjustment right there. As he drove it and goes to the offhand, you can see the length that he has right there when he laid it in. I think is it Condit he goes around on this possession? Let's take a look. Yeah, it is. Condit steps out, contests. It's nice right there. Obviously, Ted, Cisse still extremely raw offensively, but there's been undoubted improvement over about the last 3 weeks from him offensively.
Brockington answers with a scoop of his own. He's the first player in double figures with 11. Cisse turns it over. Hunter in transition. Then a blocking foul against Ice Likely.
Isaiah Brockington, watch him go right at Cisse. This is the league's leading shot blocker, length. He's got great timing, but he's got Cisse off balance. You know, you and I had Iowa State, Kansas early in Big 12 play, early in January, Ted. I don't even remember. We asked Coach Self about Brockington. He said another thing that he can do that's difficult is he can attack and score over bigs. That's what he did right there.
Kalsher misses the 3. Yeah, Brockington plays so much bigger than his 6'4" frame. He's Philly tough. High off the window, that drops in for Anderson. He's got 8 for the Pokes.
Now, really good with that floater, Anderson is, when that help comes over, and he, especially when he's going right, and he can kiss it high off the window. He did that several times the second half against Oklahoma on Saturday.
Brockington left it short. Tapped out to Hunter. Fresh 20 seconds for the Clones. And the pass is intercepted. And thunderous from Tyreek Smith.
Well, right there is one of the reasons that Mike Boynton really likes Smith. I mean, he knows who he is. He's an energy guy. He's athletic. Doesn't care if he scores. Plays hard every possession.
Kalsher shovels it in, even with Cisse lurking. Litt coming off the basket here early in the second. Kuntz makes the play. Brockington. Isaiah Brockington bringing down the house.
too, it would be understandable if it took some time with 7 newcomers or new players. I mean, Caleb Grill, I would include in that because he was at UNLV last year. He'd been at Iowa State, so 6.5. And they played with symmetry early on at both ends of the floor. And it was amazing. And I know that utilizing their time in the summer, he did a lot of team things versus individual work. And he felt like he just wanted these guys to get to know each other. And one of the things that was huge is from day one, Isaiah Brockington was a leader. And he was a guy that went hard in everything in terms of summer, weights, individual workouts, team workouts, and I think the other guys rallied around. He's done a terrific job, obviously.
Kalsher feeding Brockington. Deflected but taken back by Hunter. Under 10 to shoot now. Brockington steps into a 3. Loose ball. Walker chases it down.
Yeah, great hustle right there. Burst of energy by Walker to beat Iowa State to the basketball. Ted, that's one of those 50-50 balls that we're always talking about.
At the monitor, we're being told, of course, we're not on site. They looked at it during the timeout. I don't think they adjusted the time. At least that's what we're being told. Under 15 to play, Oklahoma State up by 2. Jones floats it in. The transfer from Denver. Backup center, tying it up at 30.
Yeah, under control play right there. Not sure why Oklahoma State was not between him and the basket right there. Defense was getting ready to probably force a tough shot. Nice job by Jones, feeling his way down the lane and using that left hand.
And likely fumbles it out of bounds for the 15th turnover of the night for Oklahoma State.
And the 5th already here of the second half. Needless to say, Oklahoma State cannot continue to turn it over at this clip and expect to have an opportunity down the stretch.
Likely poked it away from Brockington. Here come the pokes. Bryce Williams in the paint. Seen Bryce Thompson so far for Oklahoma State here in the second half after he was shaken up late in the first. Williams, the turnaround, no. And a foul against Caleb Boone inside as Kuntz hit the deck. Tickets still on sale for the 2022 Big 12 Women's Basketball Championship. All session tickets start at just $50. They're available at big12sports.com/buy tickets. First round tips off next Thursday, March 10th. From Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City.
Yeah,
Here in Ames, Iowa State playing its final home game of the season. They have not led, Brendan, since it was 9-8 at the 14:40 mark of the first half.
Yeah, with Thompson being out for Oklahoma State, you had he and Anderson the last several games in the backcourt providing pretty consistent scoring. And that's just going to make it tougher on Oklahoma State, who has struggled, particularly in the half court, to score here tonight against Iowa State's defense.
We've seen a lot more Rondell Walker here in the second half. Jones got fouled here.
At the line for the Cyclones, Robert Jones, shooting 2.
Jones just a 35% foul shooter, 10 of 29 on the season. Foul win against Likely, his 3rd for Oklahoma State.
And Iowa State, not really a team built where they get to the line very much, Ted. last in the Big 12 in terms of getting there.
Jones comes up with the steal after missing both free throws. Brockington the Euro and swatted out of bounds. Keelan Boone getting back defensively.
Well, the turnovers are always frustrating with coaches, but you know that last one from Oklahoma State's just careless, and that'll make Mike Boynton turn gray a lot earlier than he would otherwise. That's one of the reasons I don't coach, Ted.
You have a beautiful head of hair. We would not want to ruin that.
Yeah. Maybe do because I'm calling ball and not coaching it.
Under 10 to shoot, and Iowa State throws it away. Here's Anderson. Likely the trailer. Man, has it been sloppy tonight. Keelan Boone in close quarters and out of bounds to Iowa State. The 17th turnover for the Cowboys.
Oklahoma State, again, we talked about moving it side to side. Not sure where Boone was going to go with that. We don't want to get caught on the sideline. And he had it in position where he brought it. If he could have brought it back out to the forecourt, he could have moved it around the perimeter. But those turnovers continue to pile up. That's 17 for Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State's season high in turnovers is 21. Brockington, mid-range, no. Anderson on the attack. The bounce feed and a foul. Caleb Grill getting in front of Moncrief.
This is really good right here. This is what you're seeing more of Anderson. Obviously, Oklahoma State pushes right there. Not a primary break situation, but still a broken floor. Lots of space for Anderson to work. You saw he gets around the corner, slows up, draws the help. It's a nice, simple pass. And those are the type of things, again, we talked about it earlier, Ted. That's the next step for Anderson. And he seems to be starting to do a better job of that as of late.
Brendan, would you believe this is the first trip to the line for Oklahoma State tonight? And Moncrief goes 0 for 2, just a 55% foul shooter. Oklahoma State comes away with it, though.
His is a lot of times off handoffs, off those bigs up top, gets that mid-range game going. But I wouldn't sleep on him if you're Oklahoma State, because you know, Ted, he makes one, sometimes he can get off and run.
Moncrief with the tip in, Oklahoma State back on top. Moncrief with 4. Brockington has 13, the only player in double figures. Tyrese Hunter blocked at the rim.
And that's an example of the length of Oklahoma State. That was Keelan Boone. Right there, Hunter looked like he had a wide open look.
Floater around and out. Bryce Williams with the miss. Here is Hunter. Brockington trying to get free. Hunter, what a bounce feed. Kalsher off target.
You know, one of the things that Mike Boynton has done this season is typically he likes to really get out and extend, Ted, on the perimeter, disrupt you, deny everything. And they still get up in you, but they don't get out of position as much as they were earlier in the year. And that makes it hard to score over their lead.
3 to shoot, Bryce Williams. The jumper goes. Bryce Williams, the super senior, adds to the lead.
Well, since that game against TCU where he was hurt, Ted, you and I were doing that. He missed at Texas, Iowa State, at Florida, all 3 that Oklahoma State lost. He's really not gotten back to what he was.
Mike Boynton says he's still not 100%, but he wanted to finish his college career on the court. Gabe Kalsher is fouled.
Number 14, Bryce Williams. His first, team foul number 4.
Now, Boynton admits Williams has been up and down since coming back from the ankle injury, but he tried to get to a point, even just 80%, to finish out his college career. Remember, transferred from Ole Miss, as Kalsher is at the line. And Williams says he was so close to walking away from the game after the season at Mississippi 2 years ago. Averaged 3 points, played only 13 minutes a night. He says, my confidence was broken. He joins Oklahoma State, was inspired by Mike Boynton and his vision for what Williams could be, and he's been a solid contributor in 2 years.
Yeah, he has. And Oklahoma State recruited him out of junior college before he signed at Ole Miss. And so obviously they were really familiar with him. And then when he decided to leave Oxford, it was a fairly easy decision for him because the relationship that he already had with Mike Boynton and his staff. He's had some big moments at Oklahoma State. Sometimes battles with some inconsistencies. But as I said before that injury, Ted, he was actually kind of becoming a playmaker. Oklahoma State doesn't have true point guard play, and they asked Williams to do more creating for teammates with the ball in his hands.
Williams loses it here. Turnover number 18. Jaden Walker hunts it down, leaving it for Hunter. The hang, missed it, and out of bounds to Oklahoma State. A big exhale of frustration at Hilton.
Yeah, Ted, with us not being there tonight, sometimes it's hard to tell on these fouls, but it looks like Moncrief got him right there. In this game, even from where we sit tonight, it's been really physical, and these officials have let them play a lot through contact.
A swish for Anderson, who's in double figures, the first Cowboy to reach. They were on the road in the midst of a brutal road trip. They're going to remember this season. Yes, on one hand, you would like to forget it, but Mike Boynton appreciates what this team has been able to do.
Well, and a big reason is he has a really good relationship with his guys. I mean, you look at when Oklahoma State appealed the NCAA and their sanctions, and they were upheld, right before season started. This team rallied around one another, and really early in the year played tough. And then if you fast track a year before when the sanctions came down, Cade Cunningham and the roster, they stayed. They could have transferred during the summer and done something else. And I think that's a big reason is just because of Boynton's honest relationship that he has with his players.
As he looks ahead to next year, he loves the core that he could have as Iowa State turns it over. If Thompson, Anderson, and Cisse all return, those are the three specifically that he noted to us earlier today. He feels like that's a team that could be in the top half of the Big 12 next year with this year of seasoning. Keelan Boone from the outside. Cisse, offensive rebound. Reload. Rondell Walker this time, right down the chute. A triple. Just the third of the game for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and that was due to Cisse leaving his area, got great length, using his athleticism to run down that offensive rebound and get the ball moving. And you have all these Hall of Fame coaches. Coaches have been in the Final Four, and the depth of the league has been so good. And obviously, you have to have good players first and foremost. But the coaches in this league are outstanding. I mean, you look at Jamie Dixon hasn't been there, but he's had Pitt teams good enough to go there. I mean, we're talking about terrific coaches. And Mark Adams at Tech. Ted, an assistant to Chris Beard in 2019. So depth, certainly with these coaches in this league, and it's a big reason why it's so good year in and year out, not just this season.
Foul called against Oklahoma State as Cisse was trying to grab The offensive rebound, it's Cissay's second. Yes, the teams have combined for 30 turnovers, 18 by Oklahoma State, 12 for Iowa State. Combined, the team shooting 4 of 25 from 3, 37% from the field. And somehow, is that Oklahoma State ball? Of course, the crowd thinks that likely touched it. Let's get another look here. Slapped by Cissay. Wow.
Well, does the ball land on his right hand right there? That's the question. Tough to see.
Well, again, Cissay was the one to last touch it, I thought there. Before likely made the dive. Wow. Likely the lob. Oh, off target. Trying to find Cissay in the clouds. And Iowa State turns it over again. This has been an abysmal offensive performance for the Cyclones. Really hard to recognize this team compared to the one that has ripped off 4 straight wins coming in. Falling away, Anderson, no offensive rebound. Cissay missed it, Grill wipes it clean.
Boy, I mean, honestly, both teams been really bad on the offensive end.
Blocking foul on Rondell Walker, his second.
Especially with the way Iowa State has been so good offensively the last 3 games. Ted, they've averaged 78 over their last 3 wins. They've been smooth, they've been efficient, sharp. Tonight has been the opposite end of the spectrum.
Cissay checks out. He's got 6 points to go with 9 rebounds. Grill has not scored. He had 15 in the first meeting against Oklahoma State. With 5 threes. Kalser makes his move. Jones, yes! Ball's going to be called offensive goaltending. I believe so. Was the ball in the cylinder? Let's take a look.
This is a bad break here. There's Kalser. He's going to go off the window. He's going to bounce off the rim. Tough to tell there, but it did not look like it was in the cylinder.
Well, we'll take another look here shortly when we have time. Williams, the feed, and the bucket. Oklahoma State has its largest lead. For the first time, they're up double digits. Hunter is short. Keelan Boone hit the layup for Oklahoma State. Under 5 to play. And you hear what the crowd at Hilton Coliseum thinks of this officiating crew.
Yeah, and obviously a tough stretch, but Hunter can't take that 3 right here. Plenty of time left in the game. You want to grind out that possession right there. A little quick, it allows Mike Boynton to slow the game down on this offensive possession.
Likely banks it in, adding to the Cowboys' lead. And Hunter is fouled. It's a 15-3 run for Oklahoma State. Cowboys have scored 9 in a row. Another look at the offensive goaltending call against Jones.
Here's 12 Jones. Yeah, I think that's coming off, Ted, right there. That's a tough call, tough break for Iowa State.
Oh, man.
That's away from the rim, yeah.
Right, there's no way.
That first look we got was a little difficult, but I think both you and I, our hunch was that was not offensive goaltending. That's a big swing, especially, Ted, with the way that they've just struggled and labored to score tonight. It makes it even more precious.
Hunter missed the front end of the 1-and-1. Iowa State is 4 of 10 at the line Jumper, good. It continues to snowball for the Cyclones. Bryce Williams with the deuce. Brockington missed. Kuntz blocked. Tournament building momentum. Hey, we still have a chance in March. He never could do that with his team because of the postseason ban, and yet Oklahoma State has continued to put forth the effort, especially defensively.
Well, there's definitely been, if you're being honest, some inconsistencies within Oklahoma State in terms of play within games. But he has never lost this ball club at any time in pretty tough situation. And if you look at their 10 Big 12 losses, Ted, not a good shot right there by Bryce Williams. 6 of them have been by 5 points or less, and 8 by 10 points or less. Only the 2 Kansas games were they not in it in the final stretch.
Department, the quad 2 department. That's not exactly what Iowa State would like. Heading toward the postseason. They get it back after Oklahoma State turns it over yet again.
So there you go. And so you have a couple things in play. Oklahoma State turned it over 21 times. And as I said before, TJ Otzelberger's team does a really nice job in their full court pressure. They trap that first pass really well, and that's what helped cause that last turnover.
Kuntz tried to put it on the floor, had it stripped. Here's Hunter. Around Cisse. Kuntz the tip, secured by Oklahoma State.
Well, I like Hunter driving it, but it's tough to do without pulling Cisse away from the basket.
Likely, the skip. Three-pointer. Walker, no. Keelan Boone, offensive rebound. 13 on the timer for Oklahoma State. Anderson in traffic. Loose ball taken by Cisse. And Oklahoma State can milk some more clock. And now a foul by Brockington with 1:50 to go.
Yeah, Oklahoma State has separated, Ted, themselves the second half on the glass. They now have a plus 16 advantage for the game. Gotten a couple key offensive rebounds here late.
That was just the 15th foul by Iowa State. 2 more to put Oklahoma State at the line. Kalsher the reach in, 143 mark. Next one results in 1-1 for the Cowboys.
Yeah, Oklahoma State, as I look at it, Ted, they've out-rebounded Iowa State 21-9 here in the second half.
Fourth foul on Kalsher, and now free throws. And coming in, Brendan, Oklahoma State and Iowa State in terms of rebounding margin, neck and neck in the league. Just a slight edge against every other opponent on average, less than 1 per game. Missing the front end of the 1-and-1 is Anderson. But Oklahoma State with the decided edge on the glass here tonight. Kuntz for 3. Another rebound pulled in by Cisse, his 11th, and a foul with 90 seconds to go. Cisse just a 55% foul shooter, and this will be his first time at the line tonight. Kalsher has fouled out on his senior night. Again, can return next year. Could utilize his super senior season. None of the Iowa State seniors have indicated whether they're coming back or heading on. And Cisse connects with the first.
Well, Ted, You know, you have to, in this league, at this level, have to embrace winning ugly. You know, this would be winning really ugly if Oklahoma State closes this out. But they deserve a tremendous amount of credit.
I thought they were going to hang this game in the Louvre, Brendan.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's a beautiful game.
Oh, my gosh. And you know I love defense. But it's nice to have a little offense as well. At least taking care of the basketball.
Iowa State gives it away again. And a foul, Brendan, with 1:16 to go.
Yeah, sorry, Tim. I was going to say about Oklahoma State. When they keep opponents in front with that length and athleticism, you know, with that length and athleticism, they still should be able to pressure individually, defensively in most spots and still keep you in front if they're disciplined. And Iowa State did not get a ton of angles, especially off the bounce. And then you're forced into being a jump shooting team over length. And when Oklahoma State is sound and somewhat fundamental defensively, that makes them that much better. And so, obviously, Iowa State not sharp offensively tonight, but I think you have to give Oklahoma State credit for how they defended.
Iowa State shooting 29%. And 2 of 16 from 3. The Cyclones had made 10 threes in each of their last 2 wins over West Virginia and Kansas State. Biggest lead of the night for the Pokes.
Yeah, and they made 12 in their overtime win in Stillwater.
Yeah. Hunter blocked at the rim. Leads to the run out. And the stuff by Rondell Walker. Putting the period on the sentence. Tapped out with 49 seconds to go.
Well, again, the defense, there's Cisse rim protection. Easy bucket in transition. Tell you what, Ted,
this is gonna,
these games, when you win on the road, especially in a place that's as special as Hilton, I mean, that makes that plane ride home pretty sweet. And with Oklahoma State not having much to play for in terms of postseason, they have no postseason. You know, for them, you win in a tough place with great fans in Hilton. You're second to last game, and you have an opportunity now to play one of the best teams in the country. Mark Adams, Texas Tech Red Raiders on Saturday at home. And that's essentially becomes your Super Bowl, unfortunately, for Mike Boynton and his team. But it'd be a great way to end a tough year under tough circumstances if you're Oklahoma State.
Shot clock violation. Final 7 seconds coming up. Now, Oklahoma State's senior day will be Saturday. Tonight, they ruined Isaiah Brockington's senior night.